Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Tuesday Q&A with the family support team at the St. Louis Arc. This week, we're going to be talking about emergency preparedness. And as I watch the fires and floods and hurricanes and all the other crazy things happening around us in this day and age, I think it's really important for families to be prepared. So we're excited to have Leslie Mattingly with us from the St. Louis County Police Department.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Sharon. My name is Leslie Mattingly. I work for the St. Louis County Police Department. I work in the Office of Emergency Management. And today I'm going to talk to you all about the 3 steps to preparedness. So if you don't know, I'm going to explain a little bit about what we do in the Office of Emergency Management. So we have 3 main functions. We do some disaster planning. So we play that what if game. What if we have a tornado? What if there's a flood or a large power outage? We also do some event planning. So I don't know if any of your viewers have gone to the JB Blast. We make sure we plan that every year. We also handled the PGA Tour that just happened up in North County last week. So for events, we coordinate the public safety aspect of that event. We make sure that all of the partners, such as the police department, the fire department, EMS, and the National Weather Service, we want to make sure everyone's connected and on the same page should something happen during that event. And then we also do education. We love going out into the community and promoting emergency preparedness. So our staff of 9 covers all of unincorporated St. Louis County, and we also cover approximately 88 municipalities within the county. So that equals about 1 million citizens, and that isn't even counting all of the ones that commute into the county for work like myself. So we have 3 emergency management specialists on our team, and those are the ones that are playing that large scale what if game, and they're creating those plans for disasters and events that might take place. Then we have logistics. Our logistics specialist is Sam. She's in the green shirt on the picture. So she's going to be our getter. So during an event like a flood, she might work on coordinating sandbags to get them where they need to go. Or during a tornado, if the incident command requests some bulldozers to clear debris, she's going to work on getting those and getting them to the right place. Then we have our communications coordinator. So that's going to be Ashley. She has the dark hair and the black shirt. So she handles all of the radios, all of the phones. So she's going to make sure that we can all talk to each other and explain information during those events and incidents. And then the program manager, that's myself. I'm in the green shirt on the picture, and I act as the bank. So I'm going to track all of the spending, which includes personnel and equipment. And I have to keep those meticulous records for potential FEMA reimbursements. So then what drives us? We have a motto around our office. We always want to make preparedness personal. And that kind of has a twofold meaning for us. So we want to present emergency preparedness in a way that people can take the information and make it personal to them. And we want you to get involved, think about your needs, and create your own plan. And then for us in the office, we consider the community our family. So preparedness is personal to us. So emergencies can happen at any time. They don't keep a schedule. Our normal workday here in the office is going to be 8 to 5, but disasters don't follow my schedule or give me any advance notice. So it's important that we're always prepared. Having a plan and being able to make it on your own for 72 to 96 hours is crucial. Sharon, do you know why we might say to have a plan and make it on your own for 72 to 96 hours?
Well, I don't, but I'm going to guess it's because with the volume of people that might be impacted, you might not be able to get an immediate response.
That is correct. So it might take that long for help to arrive. So as an example, if we have a large tornado and your neighborhood is affected, think about that firehouse that's 5 minutes up the road. If you're affected, chances are they are too. So help that is going to have to come from further away. So we really need our residents to be prepared and self-sufficient for 72 to 96 hours. So that takes us into the 3 steps to preparedness. The first step is to make a plan. The second step is to make an emergency kit. And then the third step is to be informed. So when you create a family emergency plan, it's really important that you sit down with your family and play that what if game that our emergency management specialists play. So you might have different plans for different events. If there's a tornado, you need to have a plan for that where you're going to be sheltering in place in your house versus a fire where you're going to need a plan to get everyone out of the house. So I need you to think about where you and your family spend the most time. Some people it'll be at home. Some people spend the majority of their time at work. And some have young kids in school. So make sure that you take all of this into account when you are creating that emergency plan. We always recommend that you designate 2 different meeting places. One meeting place in your neighborhood, which might be somebody's mailbox or a neighbor's house or a specific intersection. And then one outside of your neighborhood that you can meet up to if you're not at home when that emergency happens. And it might not be safe to go back to your home.
I'm going to interrupt you for just a second because I think what you're talking about is so important. Many years ago, I worked in our day program setting, and we realized that most of our time was set at community volunteer sites, but we spent 0 time understanding what their fire evacuation plan was or what we would do if we were all out at multiple sites and a gas leak occurred back at our main site. So the what if game became really important to us to start thinking about those kinds of resources. And I'm sitting here listening to you talk and thinking about some of the people we support who go to community programs like Artists First or other places where they may not be together when a disaster happens. So I think these are really key pieces for families to be able to find each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't be afraid to reach out to your children's school or ask your employer about what their emergency plans are. And then after you have created an emergency plan, make sure that you and your family practice that plan regularly and then update that plan as needed. You might find that some things aren't working and you might need to tweak it.
Yeah, I think we've learned so much about how people with disabilities really need role play. They need to practice so that they understand what's expected. And so these just need to be something that's built into the family routine, I think. I want to stop and ask a question real quick before we get to the next part of this, because we had some questions about where you present. And I think that kind of falls into what you were talking about. Do you go out to neighborhood organizations and schools and places to talk about this?
Yeah, we do. So we've been like, if somebody reaches out, we always try to make it work with our schedules, but we've gone to different schools. I know we've attended some Lions Club meetings. We've been out to city halls before. We try to go to like national night outs for different areas and just talk about what we do, spread the information, hand out some resources.
Great. And the other question that applies to this section is, and I think you started to answer this, is what's the best way to stay informed if I live in the city but work in the county? It sounds like you should go to your employer. Is that what I was hearing you say?
Yeah. Ask them what their emergency plan is. And what I would also recommend, and that's kind of the last step of the emergency preparedness, is to stay informed, but follow both city and county emergency management, like web pages, social media, follow city and county news channels. They're all going to be sharing that information.
I think St. Louis County does this. I live in the city and I get alerts when there's any kind of weather emergency so that they're letting me know. Is that happen in the county as well?
Yeah, there is an
So you
alert.
can sign up for that text alert.
Yes, absolutely. We offer that in St. Louis County as well. I know that there's information on that on St. Louis County's website. All right, so then we get to special considerations. So when you are creating your emergency plan, we want you to make it fit your needs. So if you or someone in your family has any access and functional needs, make sure you take those into consideration when you're creating that plan. Do you take care of any elderly relatives? Make sure to incorporate them in your emergency plan, especially if they don't live with you. And then down at the bottom, it does say pets are a part of the family, so don't forget about them either. But we'll talk more about them coming up.
I do think one of the special considerations that come up with us a lot is, I think with every family, how you prepare to have medications and the things that are really important to you to be available is really key. But so many of the people we support communicate in different ways. Verbal communication may not be their strongest suit. So are there things that you would recommend that people have if people might not understand them when
Yeah,
they're in a
absolutely.
disaster setting?
Yeah, so if somebody has a communication disability, maybe consider carrying a printed card to inform first responders and others about how to communicate with them. And then if they use assistive technologies, plan on how you would evacuate with those devices and how you would replace the equipment if lost or destroyed. Those are just some things to think about. And so then when you're preparing your emergency kit, these are some things that we would recommend that you put in those emergency kits. So obviously you want to have water. And the rule of thumb is 1 gallon of water per person per day for different drinking and hygiene needs. So remember, we're aiming to get your kit to make you self-sufficient for 72 to 96 hours. And then we want to make sure that you have a good supply of food, so non-perishable food that doesn't require any refrigeration, preparation, or cooking. And then make sure that you have a manual can opener. Some medications. So tips for the medications. You want to talk to your doctor or pharmacist about how you can create an emergency supply of medications. And then you also want to keep a list of your prescription medications and include information about your diagnosis, dosage, frequency, and medical supply needs and any allergies. And then you can also store non-prescription drugs like pain relievers and antihistamines and have a little stash of those as well. And then you want to pack any personal care items that you might need, like toiletries in case you have to relocate to a shelter, a flashlight with extra batteries, extra clothing to include something to wear in the rain and outer wear, a first aid kit, and then important documents. So you're going to want to keep handy IDs, birth certificates, mortgage paperwork, any insurance policies. So if you get these documents together and you have them organized before an emergency, I would recommend that you keep them in a binder in a secure spot in your house to prevent any delays in case there is FEMA reimbursement available. And then cash. So if the power's out or if there's a large destructive storm, you might not be able to get to an ATM. So having some cash on hand would be a good idea.
I'm going to jump in and just say that in St. Louis County, our Productive Living Board that funds services for people with disabilities, they have a natural disaster reimbursement form. So those receipts are essential if you're displaced. They'll help with wherever you have to temporarily live. They'll help replace things that are damaged in an emergency, but you have to have the receipts for reimbursement. So love that suggestion.
So then we're going to talk about having an emergency kit for your vehicle. And I'm actually going to share a video that me and a coworker made last winter.
We would like to share some items that we feel are important for you to keep in your emergency car kit.
Jumper cable. And a flashlight. Make sure that you check your batteries often.
A map book. Using Google Maps on your phone is going to drain the battery really fast, so having a paper copy is a great resource.
A first aid kit. And a high visibility vest.
This is going to be important in case you are roadside and have to get out of the vehicle.
Be seen, be safe.
A pocket knife or a good multi-tool. And then we have a blanket for if you are stranded in case of severe weather to keep you warm. Now we have the emergency kit packed, and it is packed in a way where the items that you are most likely to need first are at the top, and the ones that you are less likely to use are at the bottom. And this fits nicely now in your trunk without taking up too much space.
Outside of your emergency kit, you want to pack some de-icer and a snow and ice remover so you can clean off your vehicle so it doesn't become a hazard for you or other drivers around you.
In addition to the emergency car kit items we just showed you, we also wanted to show you some additional items that you want to keep within hand reach at the front of the vehicle. And the first one is going to be a cell phone charger as well as a battery pack so that you can keep your cell phone fully charged. The second one is going to be water and snacks in case you are stuck roadside for a long amount of time. Now, with the winter weather that is coming in, we also recommend that people that go to work in dress shoes keep a pair of sturdy boots and warm socks within hand reach so that you can put these on before having to get out of your vehicle onto snow and ice. Additionally, a warm coat, gloves, and a hat will help you to stay warm if you are roadside waiting for emergency services. Thank you for joining us. We hope that these tips will help you to be better prepared should you face any kind of hazard out on the roadway.
How often do you recommend that you replace items in your emergency kit and especially like with food and water and those kinds of things? Are there schedules that you should have?
With the food and the water, I would just say cycle through it. I mean, don't let it go bad. Don't lock it in one closet and just say, I could only use this in a case of an emergency. What I would really recommend is you just adding extra each time you go to the grocery store, just adding extra for your pantry, grabbing a few extra canned goods every week at the grocery store, and then cycling through them. That way nothing goes bad. Same with water, you know, have a case and then cycle through it and have an extra.
That totally makes sense. Also, for our guests, I added in the chat a health form that I really like that was created by Charting the Life course, and it would really outline all the medical information that Leslie's identified and be something that is one-page document that you can keep updated and be able to grab and go.
All right, so after you've packed your emergency kit for your vehicle, we can go on and pack in a pet emergency kit if you have any. So if you do have pets, it's a good idea to include some extra food for them. My dog takes special food, so I couldn't just show up at a shelter. I'd need to have food for him since he does have special dietary needs. And then we recommend the same with the water, 1 gallon per pet per day. That's what we recommend. You always want to grab their medicine and any medical records. So shot records may be asked for at a shelter or a hotel. So just keep those handy. A collar with ID tag, a harness or a leash, if they're small enough to fit in a crate or a pet carrier. And then familiar items, that's going to help your pet deal with stress or anxiety. So they feel that just like we do if we get uprooted and have to go to a shelter. So having a familiar item such as their favorite toy or their favorite blanket would really help them. And then a picture of your pet for identification purposes. And I do want to stress that we don't want to rely on a cell phone picture. Have a printed out picture that can be given to first responders if your pet's missing. And then the last step in our 3 steps to preparedness is to be informed. So we want you to have multiple ways to receive emergency alerts and notifications. And that weather radio is going to be the fastest, most reliable way to get those alerts. St. Louis County also has a really large outdoor warning siren system. We actually have the 2nd largest in the United States. Sharon, can you guess what state might have the largest?
Oklahoma, because they have so many tornadoes.
It is not Oklahoma.
Okay, what is it?
It's Hawaii. They have 210
Wow,
sirens
no
across
kidding.
the state. But St. Louis County has 204 sirens just across our county. So I think we're doing pretty good.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, they just had that issue in Lahaina where they didn't use it because they didn't want people to not understand what type of emergency they were experiencing. Is our siren the same regardless of what's happening?
So our siren is always going to sound the same, but it's important for our residents to know that we are only going to sound them for 2 different reasons. The first reason is going to be for a tornado. And then the second would be a destructive storm. So a destructive storm is going to be winds at 80 miles an hour or higher, or baseball-sized hail. So those are the only way that we will sound the sirens in St. Louis County.
And the response then would be basically the same. So when you hear that, you want to shelter.
Yes, absolutely. Seek shelter immediately. And you're going to hear a 3-minute tone. And it's important to have another way to be informed, like a weather radio or tuning into social media, or to just your local news media, because there is not going to be an all clear sound. So then we also want to make note that we do a monthly test of all of these sirens. And that's going to be a 2-minute tone with a voice. And that happens the first Monday of every month at 11 a.m. unless the weather's bad. Then we'll cancel that test because we don't want anyone to get confused.
I'm always happy when I hear that because then I know I'll hear it if anything's really happening.
Yes, but now keep in mind that it is an outdoor warning siren system. So we do want to stress that these are meant to be heard outdoors. If you hear them while you're in your house or in a building, that's just a bonus. But that's why we really want everyone to have multiple ways to be informed. And then
Makes sense.
and I want everyone to tune into different local medias. We have a great relationship with the meteorologists and all the news channels, and they do a great job of covering storms in the area. And then if you guys want to follow us on social media, there's links here. We have Facebook, we have X, which used to be Twitter, and we also have an Instagram page.
That's really amazing. And I really like the fact that you are leaning into the video technology. I think so many times, like for someone with a disability, 8 times out of 10, they're visual learners. So being able to watch videos in a calm time is a great opportunity for them to think about what to do. I know we had a previous question about what to do. Is there anything that a family should do if they have a member with a disability to alert the local police that they might need some extra assistance?
Yeah, so I think that reaching out to your local police department and your local fire department is a great idea. So oftentimes the computer programs that they use can create an alert on that address. That way all of the responding units can be advised of any access or functional needs even before the units arrive on the scene.
Great. Yeah, I think it's just good too for people to get to know their local police. We have a lot of people that respond in ways that aren't typical. And so if they respond that way and it is perceived as threatening, I think that's a fear of a great many families, that the police might interact with them in a challenging way. And I know that in our area, in all St. Louis County Police Departments, you all have a robust community training program that includes disability and mental health for your responders. But there's nothing that prevents you from going and saying hello and getting to know your local force so that you're a known entity and they know what your typical responses are. And then I also and would like to drop into the chat. I think the CDC has done a good job of evaluating emergency needs for people with disabilities, and they have some pretty good tools that you might want to look at. Okay, I just want to reiterate that I think Leslie's really talked through 3 easy steps that if you all take those steps, you can start the process of organizing yourselves for an emergency. And it's really important. We can all see how often different types of events are occurring in the community that might require us to do a response. So take a few minutes, give yourself a note on your calendar to check in every few months and add to your plan or update your plan. I think it's going to be well worth your time. We have a question about tips for preparing for emergency out in public, and they're asking specifically about my experiences. You know, I think everything that Leslie said really applies to those public situations. I think talking about what could happen and what the response should be is really great, or having a social story. If somebody's really visual, that you can outline, if we get separated when we're here, here's what you could do. If, you know, something happens, whatever it might be, you could create a strategy and then talk through that. And then my final tip on that, a lot of the families we work with are devoted to their Find a Friend app, so that they can keep family members, keep track of family members on their phone. And so if you get separated from somebody, or if people are just having a little more freedom and traveling independently, you'll know where they are. So if your family member has gone off to work or to school, if you've got the Find a Friend app, you can know where they are when a disaster strikes and respond quickly. Leslie, thanks for your time to come in and share this with us. We're getting into the winter season. There's always interesting changing weather now. So do give yourself a schedule this month and then again before the beginning of the next year to kind of keep moving forward with an emergency plan. Bye, everybody.